Start with the prayers. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma viddishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We are doing Panchadasi, chapter 3. It is titled Panchakosha Vivekaha. What we have seen so far is from verse 1 to 10, what we have seen is that the self is not the 5 koshas. From 11 to 36, 26 verses, the self is not pratyaksha. It is not paroksha, but it is aparoksha. That is what is said in the second section, which we are seeing now. In the 10 verses which we have seen, the first negation was, I am not the annamaya kosha, the food sheath. That was in 3 and 4. I am not the pranamaya kosha, that was in 5. I am not the manomaya kosha, I am not the mind, which is full of emotions, and it keeps on changing. Therefore, I am not the mind. But I have a feeling inside me that I am a changeless individual. There are 2 parts to me. One is, I can experience during the day a lot of changes in me. Those changes belong to the mind. The changeless portion is the Atma. It is called as Sakshi with reference to the mind. The body is not me because it is just made up of food, annamaya. And the prana is inert. It is just air we are breathing. It is not a knowing function. It is not a conscious entity. So, annamaya is not me, the pranamaya is not me, the manomaya is not me. Can I say that I am the doer of all the actions, which is the vijnanamaya kosha, the intellectual sheath? Can I say I am a doer? The question we should ask ourselves is, am I always the doer? Or sometimes I'm the doer and sometimes I'm not the doer. Sometimes I'm an enjoyer. I watch a nice TV program, I'm enjoying. I'm not doing anything. I'm just sitting and I am having the ananda, the happiness of watching a nice cricket match or a musical program on the TV. Can I say that that enjoyer is my real nature? No. Why? Because that enjoyer is just a temporary thing. Suppose I off the TV and go and sit down and start brooding. Then I'm not the enjoyer. I start thinking of all my sorrows. So the enjoying function in this body is also temporary, which is what Vidyaranya says, Anandamaya kosha. So the joys in our life are transient. Therefore, I cannot say I am Ananda Swarupa. I am of the nature of happiness. Am I Dukkha Swarupa? No. I don't feel sorrow all the time. Throughout the day, I don't feel sorrowful. Sometimes happy, sometimes neutral, sometimes sorrowful. So in all this analysis of the 5 koshas, Vidyaranya from verse number 1 to 10 or 12, he says that this 5 sheets are the dresses which I wear. When I wake up in the morning, I put on these dresses. Automatically it is happening. It is not deliberately I put on all this and then I experience all this. No. This whole universe is governed by the laws of cosmos, which are under the control of Ishvara. There is a guiding principle. In the Veda, the guiding principle is called as Ishvara, and this body is made up of 5 elements. Prajapati is the controller of the 5 elements. Prajapati is another name of God. So I cannot say that anything in this body is mine, because everything belongs to the 5 elements. The whole universe is nothing but 5 elements. So actually, then who am I? That is what is the question. And in the last week, we finished verse number 11, and today we are going to see verse number 12. In verse number 11, there was a Purva Pakshi, an opponent, who came and argued that, okay, the 5 koshas are nothing. Therefore, this whole world is nothing. There is nothing beyond all our experiences. All our experiences are nothing but objects. So there is nothing beyond the world of objects. That is what is the opponent's conclusion is. Then in this verse number 12, Vedantin, a person who knows and who has studied the Vedas, especially the Veda Anta portion, the end portion of the Vedas, which is called as the Upanishads. Now he answers, this is the style in which Vidyaranya, the author, the Acharya, the teacher of spiritual knowledge, this is the way he is teaching. Because through this question and answer analysis, we also will understand and will be able to go deeper into our own mental frame. So let us now go to the 12th verse and then see where we how this Vedantin says that there is something beyond the nothingness which we experience in the sleep state. Let us chant, let us see how this verse goes.
Badam nidradayah sarve, Badam nidradayah sarve, Anubhuyante na chetaraha, Anubhuyante na chetaraha, Tathapyete anubhuyante, Tathapyete anubhuyante, Yena tam ko nivarayet, Yena tam ko nivarayet.
So what is the answer to the question of the Purva Pakshi by Vedantin? He says that the truth, the bliss sheath is experienced. That means we have joy in our sleep state. We have joy in our waking state also when we are surrounded by conducive atmosphere. But this is experienced. But what is not experienced is the subject. So the truth of the entire creation is not the objective world, but it is the subject who is experiencing the world. Badam nidradaya sarvanu Bhuyante na chetaraha. The first line. So here, the Vedantin says, very good, very good. You have understood Vedanta. Very good. You have understood the five koshas. You know, he accepts the Purva Pakshi. He says, well done. So, and then he says that anubhayante, whatever is experienced is objective world. The experiencer is the Atma, which you can never experience because it is the subject. Because Atma is not experienced as an object, you cannot say that there is no Atma at all. That is the reasoning used by Vedanta. See, whenever we try to analyze ourselves, we are always trying to see who am I, correct? Now, when we ask this question, who am I, we should understand that this I is the experiencer, the experiencer consciousness. It is not the objective body. This body is an object like a table, like the trees, like the roads, like a car, like the buildings, like the sky. So the body is also an object of awareness. It is not the subject. The subject is the knower principle, which is the consciousness. So here Vidyaranya Swamiji is asking, ko nivarayet. It is impossible to deny the experiencer I. Anandamaya kosha is not Satchit Ananda. It is an object of awareness, object of consciousness. By what principle are the five koshas experienced? That is the way you should ask the question. You should not say that at the end of in my sleep state, I don't experience anything, therefore the whole world is nothing. That should not be your conclusion. What you should say is, who is the experiencer? That experiencer, is he inert like the table or like the body? No, that experiencer you can never deny because it is always there. Even in the sleep state, that experiencer is there saying, I do not experience anything. That also is an experience. So everything is experienced is an undeniable fact, including the ignorance and sleep. See, this is where we miss out. When we try to ask the question, we always ask the question with reference to this body and ask, and everything about the world we keep on asking. How can I, who am I, who am I, who am I? If you are asking this question only with reference to the sense perceptions, you are not going to reach the truth. Very important factor. Slowly Vidyaranya will build up this topic. In every chapter, Swami Vidyaranya builds this entire topic and ultimately he says, and he reveals the truth. Experience presupposes experiencer. Very clear. Any experience means there should be an experiencer. And we have seen that experience is always with the five koshas. With the body and sense organs, I see the outer world. With my consciousness, I see the inner world of emotions. So these are the two main things which we experience. My emotions, my thoughts is illumined by the light of consciousness. And what is illuminating outside the objects is nothing else but the same light going through the sense organs. That's all. That is how we should understand the vision of this world. Shunyam is not logical. If self is not experienced, you can't say self is non-existent. Self is not an object, but it is ever experienced subject, experiencer. I, the Atma alone, am the experienced, and I am proved in sleep to exist beyond the three avasthas. Very important sentence. In the Tattva Bodha, we said Atma is Satchidananda Sarupa beyond the three states. That is exactly what I'm stating here. And what is the nature of this Atma? It is Swaprakasha. Swaprakasha means what? Self-evident consciousness. You don't require any other light to illumine your own self. Number one. Number two, this self is always there. 24/7 throughout this life, throughout the next life also. That is our goal, to understand that nature of that pure consciousness. So in this particular verse, Vidyaranya answers through a Vedantin who says, well done, Sabash. By saying that 50% of the power of the questioner is lost. That means the questioner thinks, this fellow understands me. And then Vedantin will prove how this subject is self-evident, and it is the substratum of the body-mind complex, and it is the substratum for the entire universe. Swayam Prakasha means without being experiencer, object of experience, self is ever established. It is self-evident. This is what we saw in the 10th chapter which we did. Swayam Prakasha Chaitanyam. A couple of things which you should always remember whenever you talk about who am I. One thing you should always remember is, if I want to reach the goal, I should remember that I is self-evident, it is self-conscious, it is always existent, it is nityaha, it is changeless. These are all the indicators to know that pure subject. Now, from verse number 13 to 28, Swami Vidyaranya is going to take the consciousness aspect, the jnana swarupam of Atma or Brahman. See, I told you last week that this entire chapter 3 is based on Taittiriya Upanishad, where the main teaching is in the 2nd chapter, the 1st verse, 1st section, where it says that there is Brahman or Atma, which lies beyond the 5 koshas. That is the seed verse. Brahma vida apnoti param tadesham yuktam satyam jnanam anantam brahma yo veda nihitam guhayam parame yoman. I'm quoting that verse of Taittiriya Upanishad. The most important word in verse in Taittiriya Upanishad. So what does that verse say? That verse says that this self can be described in 3 words: Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam. So for this analysis of trying to find out in this chapter, we are going to analyze all the 3 words: Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam. In verse number 13 to 28 is the Chaitanyam, Jnana Swarupam. Then that is 15, 16 verses are there. Then from 29 to 35, 5 verses, we are going to see Sat Swarupam, Satyam. Then we are going to see 2 verses which will talk about Ananda, Anantam. So, in about 22 verses, starting from this verse, we are going to analyze 3 words, which is described in Taittiriya Upanishad, Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam. The balance of the verses, which are from 30 to 36 onwards to 43, are all going to talk about the Shakti of Brahman, that Shakti of Atman, which is called as Maya Shakti. So that is how this whole chapter is going to be going forward. I just given you a bird's eye view of what we will be discussing from now, from verse 13 till verse 43. 30 verses, 31 verses, we are going to see. Mainly the analysis is going to be Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam. Jnanam is most important because this is where Swami Vidyaranya focuses and spends 16 verses to understand these one consciousness. Now let us see what this verse is.
स्वयमेवानुभूतित्वात् विद्यते नानुभाव्यता ज्ञातृज्ञानान्तराभावात् अज्ञेयो न त्वसत्तया.
See, what we are doing, what Vidyaranya is doing here is he is describing the self in which there is no experienced transaction. When there is no experienced transaction, that state is called as Atma or Brahman. First, we should say that it is not an experienced object. Then we say it is an experienced subject. Then to understand that experiencer subject, you have to go beyond the realm of experience itself. Because that self is unknowable and it is pure subject. When there are no objects at all, as in sleep state, who am I? I am the objectless awareness consciousness. That is what he is going to prove in the next 15 verses. Self is of the nature of pure experience, objectless awareness. So, whenever I say that we are in our true nature, in our sleep state, whenever I use that, because you see, in our waking state, I cannot say that we are in our true state because you will not understand anything. Even though I am of the nature of consciousness, to discriminate in the waking state is extremely difficult because our sense organs are projecting or seeing the world. To understand the pure nature of mind, it is difficult. So when I say that it is beyond, it is what we are in a sleep state, you should always remember in the sleep state, there are two things. One, like in the waking state also, there is a pure self and there is a ego self. The ego self is sleeping. That is the sleeper I. And that is born because of tamoguna in the mind. We are not talking of the tamoguna sleeper I. We are talking of Atma, which is beyond the sleeper I. That Atma is there even now. It is beyond the waker I. And it is also there in the dream, beyond the dreamer I. Which is what in Mandukya Upanishad we have studied this, which is called as Turiyamaya. So Turiyamaya, is it the waker I? Yes, it is the waker I in the waking state, but it is not the only condition. It is the Turiyamaya, the sleeper I. Yes, it is the sleeper I, but that is not the only condition. It is one of the padas. Is it the dreamer I? No, it is also not the dreamer I. It is a dreamer I, but it is also one of the padas. So three padas, three legs of that I exists in three different states of consciousness. But the truth is, the real subject is not the three eyes, it is the pure consciousness lying beyond the three states. If you have understood this, then all these 15 verses will become very easy. That's why I know I've spent a lot of time trying to explain to you how to reach that consciousness. It is immanent because it is available now. You can never say, I am not there now. That I which is there beyond the sleep state is available now. Because the scriptures say it is trikale api tishtati. It is satyam. That means it is ever existing. So this is a subject, never the object, ever the experiencer knower, never the experienced known. Self is unknowable not because it does not exist, but because it cannot become an object of experience and it is ever the subject. What is the status between the two, Anatma and Atma? There are 8 points which I have enumerated here. In each of this, if you study this carefully, you will be able to discriminate between the self and the non-self. 5 koshas together is called as Anatma. The self is called as Atma. So now we are doing a viveka, a discrimination between Atma and Anatma. Anatma is easy to understand because that we are aware of. What is the Anatma? Anatma is the 5 koshas. It is an experienced object. And it is in the light of Atma, all these 5 koshas are experienced. And these koshas are inert by nature. They are insentient. And they require some other light to illuminate. Matter is a lower order of reality in the Vyavaharika world. To experience matter, we require the light of consciousness. Without the light of consciousness, you can never experience the whole universe. So everything comes in front of this consciousness, whether it is the car, whether it is a pot, whether it is a body, whether it is a tree, whether it is a jug, whether it is human beings, the bodies of the other people. What I perceive through my eyes is not the consciousness in my daughter or in my son or in my mother. What my eyes perceive is the color of the body. What it perceives is the sound. What it perceives is the touch. But all this is not consciousness. Consciousness you can never perceive, it is the subject. You can only say the consciousness in me and the consciousness in the other person is the same. It is only one. How do I know this consciousness? Only from the scriptures. The proof is from the scriptures. It is the pramanam. It is the source of knowledge. I can forget the body, mind, but I can never forget my own self, which is Atma. Now coming to a self, it is ever the subject. It is a light. It is not a matter principle. It doesn't consist of the 5 elements. It is a higher order of reality. Whenever we are not experiencing the world of matter, that is what is called as Paramarthika Satyam. Beyond the world of matter, there lies a realm which is called the realm of the self. Anubhuyate means it is always experienced as I. I can never become an object for awareness because awareness is the light, is the substratum. Can I, you try to you say that I will forget myself. No, never can you forget your own self because it is self-conscious. You can never say, I have forgotten myself. You can say, I forgot the name of a person. I have forgotten the face. I have forgotten some incident which happened. These are all only thoughts in the memory. But your own self, no. You can, all the time you're conscious. So that is how I reach my own inner core. This amness, I am, is at the core of each one of us. That amness is called as existence, and that consciousness, which is aware of that existence, is what is called as Chaitanyam. Satyam and Chaitanyam, Jnanam, they are always together. Only a steady intellect can hold this concept of Atma. The scriptures are revealing the Atma. But if my intellect is not focused, concentrated, one-pointed, then you will miss the point. Suppose the mind is wandering in another area, you will miss the point that you are awareness. The jnata, the knowing principle, is the final witness. And the knowledge which you get out of that knowing principle, jnata, jnanam, they together constitute what is called as Atma. That means I know I am, and I know I am conscious. The I, the ego, for example, right now you are an ego. We are all ego at the moment because we are using our sense organs to understand the talk. I am talking, you are listening. Now both is what is called as I am the ego speaking, you are the ego listening. But they are not consciousness, pure consciousness. It is reflected consciousness. I can't be known and be illumined. Consciousness is pure illumination. There is nothing other than it. These are all descriptions of the pure self so that we can reach our core. The self is not known because it does not that because it does not exist, but because it is the ultimate knowing principle. Annamaya kosha, the food sheath, is the body, which is known. But who is the knower? The self, the consciousness, the light. The ignorance of the self is the glory of the self. The inner self is not because of the absence of self. We are ignorant of the self because self can't become an object. So, can I say that I am self-ignorant? Really speaking, I can never say that. It is only the mind which thinks that I don't know my real nature. I have to remove that notion. It is an abhasa. It is a reflection. It is a covering. Not being an object, the self, not being an object, it remains unknown. What is known actually? Whatever is known is always through 5 sense organs. That's all. Any object of the senses is called as the known object. Other than the known objects, there is only the self, the knower. Knowledgehood or knowledge is all in one consciousness which is changeless. So the knowledge aspect is extremely important. It is the core of the entire universe. That's what we are trying to understand. That the knowledge is a self-evident knower. It is not known, not because he is not there or not because the subject is not there, because it happens to be the subject which is the light of consciousness. It is self-luminous. So what we have to do to claim our ever-free status, which is called as moksha, is to become free from the experiences of the 5 koshas. Intellectually. Physically, you cannot remove the body because it is a part and parcel of the universe, which is anatma, under the controller of Ishvara. Even if I want to in my mind think, I don't want to see my body, you will be seeing the body, you will be knowing your emotions. So what we have to do is cognitively understand, intellectually try to remove the 5 koshas and see and claim the Atma, the real knower. I'll quickly revise what I have said so far, because this is a very important topic. Consciousness is not understood by many people. They always think that the mind is what I am conscious. That mind is me. Mind is me is true to in a relative plane, because the consciousness is shining in the vijnanamaya kosha. We have seen this last week in the session. So when the Purva Pakshi says, I'm just revising whatever we have understood, then we'll go to the next verse. So the opponent is saying that nothing is perceived after you remove the 5 koshas. The 5 koshas are like onion peels. Then the reply comes from the Vedantin, which I'm going to express in about 12-13 points. The first thing is the seer is never seen. Seer is the subject and it is called as Chaitanyam. Consciousness, Satyam, Jnanam. It is called as Jnanam. Atma is the principle which is aware. It is called as Prajnanam. Before Jnanam happens, it is already there. That is what is called as consciousness. I can't see the seer of this body like I see a book outside, because book I'm seeing with my sense organs. But the seer of this body is the consciousness. Now, I don't see the seer. It doesn't mean that it does not exist. If Atma is not seen or known or experienced, then the question will be, who is seeing this body? Who is experiencing this body? Who is experiencing these emotions? You will never be able to answer. Swayameva anubhutitva. It itself is the nature of experience. I am is the experience state by itself. Self is experienced in sleep without being objectified, but as the subject. Even though the cause of sleep is tamo guna of prakriti. Very important sentence. We all go to sleep. Nature consists of three gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas. Tamas puts us to sleep. Every day for all the human beings, it is a universal experience, because that is whatever is universal is called as nature. This body is a part of nature. Nature will put us to sleep. Nature will wake us up. So Maya consists of sattva, rajas, and tamas. Sattva means knowledge, which happens in the waking state. Rajas means action, which is also in the waking stage. The body is acting. Tamas means it goes to an inertia state. But beyond this tamas state, what illumines that tamas state is consciousness. Everything in the world can be denied, negated, but not the Atma. What can't be denied is the denier of the world, which is Atma. Anubhuyate na vidyate. Experienced, not cognized as an object. This Atma is the experiencer. It is vidyate, na vidyate. It cannot be known as an object. Keno Upanishad, this very beautiful sentence which explains this particular point, that it can never become an object. Na tatra chakshur gacchati, na vag gacchati, no manaha, na vikmaha, na bijanimaha, yathaita tadonu shishya, anya devatad viditat yatho, avidatada adi, iti shushuma purvesham, enas tatvida chakshire. What does this mean? It says that the eyes cannot reach the Atma. Eyes cannot go because eyes are karyam, effect. Speech cannot go there. Mind cannot go there. We do not know that as an object. We do not know how to instruct one about it. How to explain this to the student? We don't know how to do it. It is distinct from the known because it is not the object. And above the unknown, we have heard it, so stated the perceptors who taught us. So, in this Keno Upanishad mantra, it is very clear it cannot become an object for the sense organs or the mind because it is ever the subject. You cannot deny the subject because that denier is you. It is known as knower without seeing Atman. So what the scriptures tell us is it is Chaitanya means it is knowing principle. It is prajnanam. It is consciousness. It is self-evident and it exists in the universe. It is not that it is consciousness is somewhere else, like we say God is in heaven. No, consciousness is here and now. It is all pervading principle. We'll study this a little bit more. This pramata, pramanam, and prameyam, the knower, known, and the knowing instrument are always in the field of objects. Whenever I see the body is an object. Immediately you will see the world. And the knowing instrument is this sense organs. So this is one realm. Knower, known, knowledge with reference to consciousness is the ultimate Chaitanya. So pramata, pramanam, prameyam is the three words which we use whenever we are with objects. What lies beyond this is consciousness, the subject. I never come in front of the body, mind as an object. All the time it is experienced. The world is known and unknown. This is another important principle to reach consciousness. Very important principle. How to differentiate consciousness from the world? If you were to ask, many seekers will have to answer this question, because if they want to reach Atma, you must know this fundamental principle called manifestation and unmanifestation. You must note that the world is manifest form, it is known, experienced. In the unmanifest form, as in sleep state, it is unknown. The world is unknown. It is not experienced. Consciousness is not in the field of known or unknown. It is a sakshi. It is the light which reveals, which illumines both the known and the unknown, which belong to the realm of the mind. This chart here, very important chart. I, the knower consciousness, am self-evident. All the time I am an experiencer. Swaprabha, I am self-illumined. This is a very important aspect to differentiate the world, which is known and unknown. But I, the consciousness, never become unknown. I am always known as the subject. If you can understand the statement I am making, you know what you are. You have already reached consciousness. Because this is a very, very subtle point, but if your intellect can catch it, then your intellect has been able to hit that pure, subtle nature, Atman. Known means waking state. Known means a dream state. Known means sleep state. These three states are known. Unknown means in the sleep state, I don't know. That ignorance principle is the unknown factor. Knowledge in the waking and the dream and ignorance in the sleep state, both are illumined by one principle in this world, which is called as Sat Chit Ananda. So intuitively, subtly, we become aware of our own consciousness. And this Atma exists without any objectification. That is its nature. It is Nitya Shuddha. Nitya Buddha means it is ever known as the subject. Nothing is always known except the knower. Prajnanam. Prajnanam is another word for Chaitanyam, consciousness. Turiyam is another word for consciousness. So, Vidyaranya uses Shruti, Yukti, and Anubhava. Whatever the Shruti is saying, that this is your true nature, Vidyaranya tries to establish a reasoning behind to prove that this is what you are beyond the objective level, you are the subject. That is what? Through reason. And through Anubhava. Because you touch your heart and say, who am I? I am the consciousness. That is the personal experience for all of us. That is what we are trying to reach in our meditation. That consciousness, which is not an object, it is the subject. So Vedanta is not a blind belief that there is something. It is a personal experiencer of all the seekers. Whether it was Swami Chinmayananda or any other Swamiji who has realized the self, they have gone through the same path as what we are learning today. Same path, because there is only one path to reach this consciousness, through the scriptural study. The objective realm, form, color, sound, touch, smell, taste, they are changing, always changing. I can smell a lily, I can smell a rose, I may touch a soft bed, I may touch a hard stone, I may see blue color, red color, I may see different forms. That is all objects. And what is the subject? It is changeless consciousness, awareness, the common denominator of all the waking, dream, and sleep state. What is the common denominator which pervades everything, which is ekam, which is advitiyam? It is non-dual, because there is only one consciousness in this entire universe. Swayameva anubhutitvat. That is what Vidyaranya is saying here. Self-evident is the ultimate knower. Subject and object, I've just now explained to you. So the test of Vedantic knowledge is our own self-experience. Jnatru means the knower, jnanam means the knowledge. Whenever they two become one, it is called as Atma. Atma is the knower and it is the source of knowledge. So all the five koshas are posited, or they are all superimposed on the Atma. Because of the five koshas, the Atma appears as a knower. When the five koshas are not there, as in the sleep state, what happens? It is not called as a knower, it is called as sakshi. We call that Atma as a perceiver, knower, seer, hearer, runner, smeller, taster, all that whenever it is in front of objects. In the absence of objects, it is not called as a seer or a hearer, it is called as pure consciousness, right? Jnanam. It is seer, seen, vilakshanam. Vilakshanam means beyond. Is knowledge of your nature or knowership, is that your nature? So what is your nature? Knowledge or knowership? For example, you know medicine. Because you know medicine, you're called as a doctor. You know singing, you're called singer. You know Vedanta, therefore you're called as Vedantin. Knowing running, you're called, or running is called your runner. So knowership is only a temporary phase, it is not inherent. What is inherent is the light. That is why we always say it's a light, illuminating light. Objectless awareness is asangoham. Asangoham means it is never attached to any object in the world. Therefore, if I come to know and realize I am Atma, I can say I am pure relationless relationship which exists as Atman. That means I can exist without any connection with the world, or I can exist with relations. With relationships is transient. It is a temporary state when I see the waking state. When there is no other waking state of objects, I am relationless, and that is my real nature. Other than this pure self, there is no other knowledge, there is no other knower also. This self is non-objectified because it is not objectified, not because it is absent. Atma is not absent. Atma is there. It is not non-existent principle, but it is always existent principle. In the world, we can say there is an absence of line, absence of table, absence of chair, absence of the sunlight. But in the absolute plane, there is always, it is, it is, it is. It is always known as self, the subject. And there is no objectification of that self. In the sleep state, the self is not objectified, but it still exists. So this knowingness is the highest aspect in this world. We should note that Chaitanya is the highest principle. What is the highest principle? It is not the body. It is not the mind. It is not the intellect. It is not the world of objects. These are all the cloaks, dresses which we put. But what is the reality is, it is Atma, which is pure Chaitanya. So that is what is being revealed in this particular verse, which we have seen in very big detail. Now Vidyaranya will give some example to show the nature of this Atma. I will just introduce this for 1 or 2 minutes, and then we will go into our meditation session. Let's just listen to the next verse.
माधुर्यादिस्वभावानाम् अन्यत्र स्वगुणार्पिणाम् स्वस्मिन् तदर्पणापेक्ष नो न चास्त्यान्यदर्पकम् नो न चास्त्यान्यदर्पकम्.
So in this verse, Vidyaranya gives an example. So what is this example? The example is about sugar. Sugar is naturally sweet. Milk is not naturally sweet. So when we add sugar to the milk, milk becomes sweet. But sugar by itself, but its nature is conscious, its nature is sweetness. So similarly, consciousness, this is the Drishtanta. In the next verse, 15th verse, he will talk about consciousness. Consciousness by itself is knowership, knowingness. That knowingness you can transfer, like you can transform the sugarness to the milk and make payasam out of it, or kheer or anything. Similarly, consciousness, when it goes with it, it can be borrowed by the body, mind, intellect, and then you can experience the world. But consciousness is natural. That is what he is trying to explain, the nature of sugar and the nature of consciousness. The sugar is naturally sweet. Madhur Madhurjadi eva swabhavanam. Sugar, honey, jackfruit, sugar cane, jaggery. These are all sweet objects. There are shad rasas, katu, amla, lavana. There are different rasas which are there in nature. These are all born out of nature of objects. Anyatra swa guna arpinam. Sugar bestows sugar in others which don't have sweetness inherent in them, like milk, wheat, rice. They are all, when mixed with sugar, they borrow the the sweetness from sugar. And then you can make kheer or paisam or whatever it is. So sugar does not lack sweetness, like consciousness is pure light in which everything is known. Just because eyes can't see Atma, mind can't perceive Atma, intellect can't cognize Atma, it can't make self bereft of consciousness. That means the consciousness is there. Eyes, mind, intellect, they're all borrowers of this Atma, the light of consciousness. Like the sugarness is borrowed by the wheat, by the rice, by the milk. That is what Vidyaranya are trying to prove in this example. Okay, we'll continue this. I just wanted to introduce this time. We will continue this verse next week. See, this Panchadasi is a slow, gradual teaching. Step by step, Vidyaranya, through the process of reasoning, because our intellect is got certain wrong notions about what we experience. To transform that intellect through reasoning takes time. Therefore, I'm going slow with reference to these verses. I'm explaining to you in a little bit more detail the reasoning aspect. Because once this reasoning is understood by the intellect, then realizing Atma is just a matter of few seconds. Okay, I'll continue with this particular slide next week. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudacchade Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnamevavasishyade. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. There are no messages in the chat box. If you have any questions, Shanmugam is going to unmute all of you, and you can unmute yourself and ask question if you have. Any questions from anybody at the moment?
Shekharji, Venkatesh here.
Yeah, Venkatesh, tell me.
Like in the Mandukya Upanishad and all,
Yes.
so when we say based on three avasthas and all,
Yes.
so we are keeping both Jivatma and Paramatma, and only in the sleep state, when we just say that this body, mind, intellect complex is not there, and what is being experienced is by that Paramatma, and that's where the Turiya Avastha, that is how we just decide.
Correct.
But when we come here, the 5 koshas, so every kosha, we are like Vidyaranya Swamiji, the way he has put it, every kosha is being experienced by consciousness only. So he is going by the term, he just going like the koshas, the 5 koshas, whether it is like a manifest and unmanifest state, or the knower or unknown state, beyond both the experiencer is consciousness only. That is how
Yes, you are right. That's correct. You see, beyond the known and the unknown is this consciousness.
Consciousness. And that is why that chart also what you have shown, all the koshas are considered to be inert and
yes, correct.
Only the consciousness is this thing.
Yes.
But the role of Jivatma and Paramatma, that separation, where he is not putting anywhere, like see the Mandukya Upanishads and all, so the classification is there, that the differentiation is there. But here, he just, at one end, we are trying to say that consciousness is asanga, but at the same time, we are also saying here that experiencer actually, I mean, like Mandukya Upanishad and all, what it is saying is Turiya Avastha, all these avasthas are existing. So, whereas here, the experiencer is still saying as a consciousness, but still experiencer is Athartha and Abhokta. So, how is he, I mean, is there any little bit of conflict or something is there? Or,
No. You see, he is going to bring the concept of Maya in the end of the chapter, where he is going to bring Paramatma.
Oh, okay.
So right now, he is only looking at the Atma level, at the individual level. So he is saying the Jivatma is a mixture of the 5 koshas along with consciousness, and he is trying to segregate the consciousness from the Jivatma portion, which is the Anatma portion, and he is revealing the Jivas as the pure consciousness by saying that the Jiva is nothing but Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam. At the individual level, he is now tackling it. He's saying the 5 koshas is not bringing the Paramatma, Brahman, and all the totality is not bringing at this stage.
Yeah, he is not bringing at this stage. Yeah.
No. He is not bringing. He is only looking at the Jivatma as the individual body. The Jivatma has got 2 natures. One nature is with the body, which is manifested, unmanifested. That is what is the Jiva. But the beyond these 2 states is the Paramatma, is the state of absoluteness. That state of absoluteness is common between Paramatma and Jivatma.
That's what he just trying. He's taking that basically koshas are only objects, and that is what is Jiva.
That's correct. He is right now. You're right. You see, the whole Panchakosha Viveka is being done right now at the individual level only.
Exactly.
So So for some time, what he is saying is that the nature of the Jivatma is not the five koshas, but it is consciousness. That's all he is saying at this stage. He is not talking about Paramatma at all at this stage, which he will bring towards the end.
Yeah, because that example also, the way he has given the nature of sugar and the milk.
Yes, it's a very beautiful example because sugar is sugar.
Then,
consciousness is consciousness. Sugar can give its sugarness to
the milk.
Milk and make that milk sweet. So what he is going to say is consciousness by itself cannot be added by any other consciousness. Sugar cannot become more sugar by adding extra sugar in it. When you come to the next verse next week, you will understand this example, very beautiful example, which he has used.
Yeah, I'm sure he might have it somewhere.
Yes, and see, this is a unique example. We have never seen this example at all. You see, that is the beauty of this Acharya, you know. He is, he uses Shruti, reasoning, Yukti, and he will combine it with Anubhava.
Anubhava is given importance here.
You see, when we study the Upanishads, we only study the Upanishads which says there is Brahman, there is Atma. The Upanishads does not go to the reasoning part. Panchadasi is a beautiful text. It goes every chapter. You see, right now we are doing only this third chapter. In the second chapter, he talks about the 5 elements. You know, and then he will come back and he will come back and analyze and say all the elements do not exist by themselves. They exist because of Satyam Jnanam Anantam. That is at the macro level. At the Paramatma level, Paramatma is the controller of the 5 elements. Very beautiful analysis. You see, but only thing is it requires a lot of patience to study these verses. You see, the 5 chapters which I plan to do, the first chapter is 65 verses. The current chapter which we are doing is 43 verses. Then these are all very, they are step by step. All of them, what we need is to patiently understand the reasoning. Let's understand slowly how he builds this topic.
Yeah.
Right now, for 15 verses, he is going to talk about consciousness. 15 verses. And then 5 verses on Sat aspect, the existence aspect. And then 2 verses on Ananda aspect. This is one way of presenting the self. Then he is going to present the same self in another way by you analyzing the 5 elements. See, what we have to first of all understand is, this is what he says in the second chapter, but I want to tell you, because you are, senior students, what I want to explain to you is, in this world, the sense organs have a limitations of perceptions.
Perception, yeah.
First of all, you should understand, my sense organs has a limitation of perceiving the world. It cannot perceive everything in this world. There is something called as Atma, which is the light of consciousness, which is behind, it is the life principle behind this body. And this is known from the Shruti, because for something which the sense organs do not have access, the only access point is the scriptures. The scriptures are telling me that my nature is what? 3 words. Satyam Jnanam Anantam. I am not the body, I am not the 5 koshas, I am not the mind. But who am I? I am the pure existence, which is always there. I am the consciousness. This consciousness is the ultimate substratum, not only for this body. It is the knower of this body. It is the knower of the entire universe. You see? So for knowing myself, I have to drop my notions, whatever the sense organs are giving me knowledge, I have to say, all this is not true.
Yeah.
I'm seeing the body, not true. About not truth, it is not the truth about myself. So whatever is seen, whatever is experienced is not the truth, but the consciousness. You see, that is the real nature. Once our mind learns to understand the difference between the body, mind, and the intellect and the consciousness, it will never forget that that is the truth. You see, the challenge for all seekers is patiently we have to go through this process of reasoning, because through reasoning only I can drop my mind. Without reasoning, I will not be able to drop the mind. The mind will keep on throwing one doubt, second doubt, third doubt, fourth doubt.
Yeah.
And one thing you have to understand is this truth which they are talking about, my nature, which is consciousness, it is known from the scriptures only, not through the eyes, not through any of the sense organs. I have to forget the entire world of objects, which I call it as
Objectless.
Yes, I have to, and by doing this analysis, my mind gets the power. See, after one or two chapters, you will say, oh, my mind can easily think of this pure consciousness. Initially, it is difficult. The more I do this analysis with Vidyaranya, in 2-3 chapters, you will say very easy. Now I know exactly how the Upanishad is saying Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma is my nature. When we complete the Panchadasi, the study of this, each one of you, because you have gone through these verses, you will appreciate the nature of the self. Guaranteed. And you will say, I am free. I am free from any fear. There's no fear for me. I am fearless. I am of the nature of consciousness. I have no doubt about it. Even if you come and wake me in the middle of the night, I'll say I'm consciousness. What should I, there's nothing else. It's okay. I am experiencing the world, but then it is not the ultimate. At any point of time, if your intellect says whatever is seen is mithya, it is a false world projected by the mind. There are many reasons. You see, when you go, I cannot tell you of all the reasoning he uses in every chapter, but we will do this. Yeah.
Very broad analysis.
Very, very beautiful analysis, because he is a master teacher. You see, he's really a master teacher of Vedanta. Absolutely a master. I have not seen any text like this which can go and give us the realization. You see, we can study the Upanishads as an academic point of view. Okay, Brahman is like this, Atma is like this. But then
trying to accept this difficult.
Yeah, you see, my intellect should accept it.
Yeah.
You should not say, yeah, Upanishad has said this, but then, it just makes no difference to me. See, the difference will come when you apply it. And Vidyaranya shows how to apply it.
A very analytical approach.
Yes, very, very analytical. You just see you just watch how he does each chapter. And then in the 5th chapter which consists of only 8 verses, which I will do in the end. He will summarize all the Mahavakyas and say, all the Mahavakyas are revealing this pure Atma only. And that completes the full study of all the Upanishads. Because if you have understood the 5th chapter, 8 verses of the 5th chapter of Panchadasi, you have understood all the Upanishads. The teaching essence of all the Upanishads, he just summarizes in 8 verses. After doing chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, in the 5th chapter, he says, this is what I wanted to reveal in all the 4 chapters. You know, and then each chapter is beautiful. It says, only thing is, it's a slightly long ended. You know, it takes time. See, we are doing 2, 3 verses, 2, 3 verses, but doesn't matter. You know, you're going deeper and deeper into see, the mind, like I said, only through reasoning, it will know how to go into consciousness. Otherwise, it will still stay at the superficial level, at the superficial level with the world.
Up to intellect level is okay, but beyond that, Anandamaya kosha is a very critical factor.
Yes. See, that is where the specialization of Vidyaranya comes in. Not many teachers can do this. And he has got a style of reasoning them, you know. He proves that existence is my nature. And
yes.
Yeah,
Sati is the nature. Yeah, Sati is very
he says that pure existence, pure consciousness is my nature. And, you know, everything else is not my nature. They are all transient.
Yeah, he said existence becomes objectless without
Awareness.
that.
Yes, again, existence is objectless.
Yeah, that's a very nicely explained.
Thank you. Nice, Venkatesh. You have analyzed it. You understood in depth. I'm glad. Anybody else has a question? Yeah. Saru, tell me.
Yeah, hi. Okay, so I have 2, 3 questions.
Yeah.
One is, I'm not sure if I heard it right, where it says that ignorance is also illuminated by consciousness.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
That is
so
because,
ignorance is...
Yeah, you see, you should understand what is ignorance. Whatever we experience in our sleep state is called as ignorance.
Okay.
Each one of us, you know, you go to sleep, I experience nothing.
Yeah.
That nothingness is what is called as ignorance. It is called as karana shariram, causal body.
Okay.
Like I have a subtle body which is thinking, emotions and all that. It is a subtle body. But subtler than the subtle body is the causal body. That causal body is a homogeneous mass of ignorance. Homogeneous, that means I don't know anything in this world. There is not a wee bit of knowledge. And that is what is called as tamo guna. It is the nature of Maya Shakti. You see this body, for example, it's pumping blood, it is digesting food, it is acting, the mind is, this body is very, very active. And how it is active? Because there is a power which is running through it.
Yeah.
And that power at the macro level, it is the one which controls the 5 elements. And automatically the power will enable the mind to withdraw from the world. That is what is called as tamas. That is what is called as ignorance.
Okay.
That is what is called as causal body. You see, I live in the physical body. Everybody knows, because in the waking state, I can see the physical body. I live in my subtle body in the dream state, because there I am only aware of all the projections of my mind. That's what.
Yeah.
That is another realm of consciousness.
Yeah.
The third realm of consciousness is the sleep state, which is called as the ignorant state. And the main vritti, the main thought in the causal state is, I don't know anything.
Okay. Yeah.
For experience, that is my experience, that is Shama's experience, it is Venkatesh's experience, it is Ganesh's experience.
Yeah.
Everybody, when they sleep, they experience the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is how the nature has created us. Now, Mandukya Upanishad says that sleep state is the karanam, is the cause for the waking state and the dream state. Very important point. Yeah, the sleep state is the cause, is the karanam.
Okay, for the waking state.
For the
and the dream state.
And the dream state.
Okay, okay.
And every day we are rising from that sleep state into the waking state, dream state, and again going back to the sleep state.
Yes, yes, yes.
And therefore, whatever is in the karanam, it will be there in the karyam. It will be there in the effect.
Yes.
Then the sleep state is a state of ignorance. My waking will be also a state of ignorance. You take anything in the world, you at the end of it, you will say, I don't know what it is. Whether it is the body, whether it is the mind, whether it is a small flower, beyond a certain analysis, you will say, I don't know. Why? I don't know. What? I don't know. So I don't know continues in the waking state for all of us.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
I don't know what my life is. I don't know how I lived all my 50, 60 years in this world. What I did, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know is a common answer for all of us.
Yes. Yes.
And the same thing in dream also. I don't know why the dream came. I don't know how it came. So I don't know is what? Is the common basis for waking, dream, and because the sleep state is the cause. The sleep state is the causal world whereof ignorance. Therefore, what I'm telling you is the essence of Mandukya Upanishad. So to answer your question, ignorance is also illumined by something.
And once I become aware of that illumination.
Yes, I know my nature as Sakshi.
Okay.
What is the difference that you should really, this is a very subtle point. Sakshi is illuminating the knowledge in the waking state. It is illuminating the ignorance of the waking state in the sleep state.
Yes.
Once you have understood that both knowledge and ignorance are being illumined by one factor, you have reached Sakshi. You have reached the ultimate. Okay, and now you should only say, that is my nature of the truth which the Upanishad wants to reveal. It is beyond ignorance, beyond knowledge. And what it is cannot be defined by words because words have got no power to describe that Atma.
Interpretation of perception.
Atma is something which cannot be described, indescribable, anirvachaniyam. And that whatever your mind has been able to reach as the light of consciousness, hold on to that. Hold on to that as your real self, and you will find that all your problems become insignificant. Because you see, the mind was not exposed to this. Your intellect was not exposed to this knowledge of the scriptures. And the moment it gets light, the light is given by the Shruti. By it, whatever I'm saying is only words of the scriptures. So it is the scripture which is throwing the light about your nature, real nature,
right,
which is beyond knowledge and ignorance. I'm glad you're asking this question because it's a very, very deep question. What is ignorance? What is knowledge? Many people don't understand this, but I think with this light of Sakshi, which is a light to both, then it becomes very easy.
Yes, yes. I have one more question, and
Go
this is
ahead.
from the point of experience. So when you made us do the pranava om chanting, yeah.
Yes.
Now, okay, I'll talk from my experience, the anubhav. When I go into the pause and the silence, it's almost like a wave. Okay, there's a wave-like experience which starts taking place.
Correct. Yes.
Now, I am still an experiencer.
No, the experiencer has merged with Atma. That experiencer was before. It was before as the experiencer of the sound. But now there is no sound.
Okay.
It's objectless awareness. There is
Oh,
no more
so
this. What you are calling it as wave, but it is a nothingness.
But I'm experiencing that, and I'm aware of that experience.
Yes, that is what is called as Atma. That shunyam experience, that nothingness experience, that wave-like nothingness experience is what is called as self-experience.
And that we say that is so when there is no other stimuli, there's no shruti, there's no sound. And in spite of that, that experience is happening, is continuing.
That's correct. And that will continue. And that is exactly the same thing which I experience in a deep sleep state. That is what
which
the
I may not be aware of.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which you are not aware of.
Yes. Yes. Which I'm not aware of.
Which you are not aware of. It can be known only because it is only known because the Shruti is telling me that what you experience in your samadhi state when the intellect is without any thoughts, you are there, but the intellect is without any thoughts.
Okay.
That is what is called as objectless awareness.
Without thoughts. Okay.
Without thoughts, because thought brings objects to the intellect.
Yes. And creates disturbance.
I think of say my daughter, my son, or my car, my this thing. Each of them is an object.
Yes.
So in the state of meditation, what I'm doing is I'm throwing out all the objects. I'm saying I am the objectless awareness. And all of us can experience it because that is what is called as Satchit Ananda. When we do the Panchadasi more and more, you will come to know, by the end of this chapter itself, you will know that that is what is called as Chaitanyam. That is the same what you are experiencing is called as Ananda.
And it can be extended for a period of time. It can be extended.
Yes, it can be extended. And
because now it's very momentary.
It is momentary because you're just coming and your intellect is just opening up to this window of truth. And you can continue this for some time, but you need not, because ultimately you should say, this is knowledge. This is what is called as jnanam, where there is nothing except I, the pure self. And that is what is the description of the self from the Upanishads. What this teacher of Panchadasi, what he is trying to do is, again and again, he is trying to take us to that realm of consciousness in which I can be myself without the body, mind, and the world. Always remember that goal, you're shooting that arrow of Om. The goal is what? The goal is, the final goal is, I exist. I am independently existing without the body awareness, without the mind awareness, without the world awareness. Because that is the light. You see, it is a spiritual light. It is not like the material light of the sun or the tube light. These are all material lights. So in that spiritual light, it is not like you will see a bright flame or something. It is just they say that it is just a pure light of consciousness. That's all. It is I, the subject. Now that subject cannot become an object. Remember,
subject
make it an object and say, I'm seeing this light, I'm seeing that light, drop it. Okay?
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Sorry, one last one. Sorry, yeah. The last question is, so when the Purva Pakshi comes, it is typically from the perspective of shunyata, right?
Yes.
Now, also does it also address the Purva Pakshi from the point of dualism?
It will come later. See,
It'll
right now, Vidyaranya is only answering the Shunyavadi Buddhists.
Okay.
The dualist state, he will answer in a different way.
Okay, because that is also a lot of adhyasa, no?
Yeah, that is full of adhyasa, but that will be answered in chapter 4.
Okay, fine.
In chapter 4, there are 69 verses where the duality of Jiva and Ishvara and the Jagat is described.
Right.
So he will tackle the duality at that point in chapter 4.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay. Any other question?
Yeah, Shekharji.
Yeah, Preeti.
Yes, so the Atman is beyond all the three states, right? Waking,
Yes.
dreaming. Okay.
But it's in the waking state only you can realize this Atma correctly. Because in the sleep state, you are already in Tamoguna. You can't do anything. There is no knowledge in sleep state. In the dream state, it's totally uncontrollable. It is controlled by Ishvara. He will just give you a dream and that's it. You have no willpower there. So we can only use the waking state to come to the point of who I am. In the waking state, you try to reach a state of objectless awareness and then study that state of objectless awareness with reference to your experience of the sleep state. And then you will say, I was the same objectless awareness in the sleep state. And then you will say that in the Shruti, in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, in Chandogya Upanishad, and in Prashno Upanishad, 3 Upanishads, they tell again and again in the Upanishad that in the sleep state, when you have dropped the awareness of the body and the awareness of the causal state, in that state, you are the pure consciousness. You see, the analysis is now, the experiences is now, but it will be added up. All this will fit in when the Shruti tells you, when the Upanishads you read, when you come to the Shruti and there you will find, oh, in the sleep state, I am in my pure consciousness state, without the body, without the mind, without the world also. I existed. That existence is the cause, is the ultimate cause. But how come that I don't see it when I'm in the waking state? I see the sky, I see the world. I say the space has got existence. But actually speaking, in existence only, in this conscious only, the space is coming and going. What Vidyaranya, the teacher, will say in the second chapter is, he will say, your perceptions are having a defect. And what is the defect? Instead of saying in consciousness, the whole world is coming, you are saying the world is with consciousness. See, today, what do we say? The world is, there is consciousness in this body. Body is consciousness. But that is because there is an error which is happening in our intellect. There are a lot of problems if you say consciousness is a property of the body. It is a property of the mind. There are a lot of problems. He will explain all the analysis. It comes in the chapter 2. But
some of the perceptual errors Ramana Maharshi has clarified, like we say sun rises, sun doesn't rise.
That's correct. You see, it is the sunrises.
Error.
Yeah, these are all the perceptual errors. So
That is-
similarly, I am consciousness, but I feel body is me. That is what is an error.
That's an error.
And this we can know only from the Shruti, only from the Upanishad. Because the Shruti will tell me what lies beyond this perceptible world. See, the eyes, ears, and all, they are there. They are only giving me some experiences, but there is something which lies beyond this world of perception, and that is the world of consciousness. That is what we are going to study in the Saturday Kaivalya Upanishad, where we are going to say, Mayeva Sakalam Jatam, Mai Sarvam Pratishtitam. You know, from that consciousness only, the world is arising and the world is setting. Yeah, pretty good. I'm glad you have understood. Thank you.
Thank you, Shekharji.
Okay, anybody else?
Shekhar, I would like to clarify with you. Is it you said in the waking state only you are realizing your consciousness, is it?
Yes, you see, in the waking state only you can realize your pure nature. You can't realize it in the sleep state because it is full of tamas.
But in the sleep state, you feel you are in Atman already. So that part of the knowledge you can experience in the waking state.
Yes, you see, in the sleep, in the waking state, your mind, when it has the power of the Shruti, when you take the statement of the Upanishads, and then you use it in the waking state, your intellect, powered with these statements, it can realize Atma.
In the waking state.
In the waking state, because in the sleep state, the mind is not there.
Oh.
Your instrument to know is not there.
But the knowledge is there, isn't it?
Knowledge is there, which comes from the waking state by using the scriptures only.
Oh.
The knowledge that I exist in sleep state in this form, that knowledge comes only in the waking state by using the, like for example, you want to see the bacteria. To see the bacteria, you use microscope, and then through the microscope, and you can see the bacteria. Without that, you cannot see the bacteria.
Okay.
To see the far off Mars, some star, you use a telescope. In the waking state, there is a conscious being behind that microscope or the telescope, which is finally the knower.
Oh, okay.
The telescope by itself cannot know.
No.
The microscope by itself cannot know. There is a conscious being which is going through the instruments.
Only in the waking state you see the consciousness.
The Veda is the scope. You use the scope of the Shastra scope and then use the same mind intellect through which you were seeing the bacteria or the stars. Now you see the self, the subject. What the scripture says, you remove all the three states. That is the scope. You remove the three bodies.
Oh, yeah, right.
Gross body, subtle body, and the causal body. You remove the waking state, the dream state, the sleep state.
Yeah, all three states.
So this is how you are now using the intellect, and with the help of this Shruti statement, then it says, whatever you are without these three states is your real nature, Atma.
Yeah, that remains.
Atma is called as Satchit Ananda. And I will now analyze what is Chit. And then now he describes all this.
Right.
So it's clear.
Shekhar, just to add that point, like in Tamo Guna, we cannot have the awareness. It has to be in the Sattvic state.
Yes,
So sleep
yes,
state
right.
is a Tamo Guna, so there cannot be any awareness. So
Yeah,
awareness,
you're drowned in ignorance.
yeah, it's a full of ignorance. So Sattvic state is required for the awareness.
Yes.
Which Vidyaranya Swamiji very clearly said that the knowledge of scripture and the anubhava, both are required, and which is possible only in the waking state.
Correct. That's correct.
So sattvika state of mind is very much required. So
Yes.
that rules out all other states of mind. Yeah.
Correct.
So Shekharji, the man of realization, the Jivan Mukta, Sthit Prajna Purush, has also tamoguna in the sleep state?
Yes, 100%.
Hmm.
You see, tamoguna is given by nature to the jnani. He cannot avoid it. He cannot say, I will not sleep tomorrow. The body will demand sleep. The mind will demand sleep. He knows. The only thing, the difference between the jnani and us is, he knows that this is this sleep state is a transient state. It is as good as nothing, insignificant part of my experiences. Whereas we take the waking world experiences. I was, in deep misery last week and I struggled with this. He will never think like this.
Passing show.
Yeah, he says, okay, this is just a waking state. It's just a prarabdha of the body. That's all. It will go through this. That's it. For a jnani, he says this is all, at a lower level. It is an experiential level. Like, how do you take your dream? After waking up, do you say, my dream, I'm still thinking of my dream? So jnani will be like that only. All his waking state, he'll convert it like a dream. Okay?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, it's time up. It was a very interesting discussions. I'm very glad that you're all, thinking and asking questions, and I'm sure you are understanding the reasoning behind these texts, because if you understand the reasoning, the whole text will become interesting, you see? And this type of text generally you don't get at all, because he takes it to a conclusion at the end of every chapter. This is yourself. This is yourself. 5 times you are going to repeat. We have done in the 10th chapter, I am the pure light of consciousness, which is self-evident. Finished. One thing which I learned, and I can always remember that. Now in this chapter, he's going to say, I am beyond the 5 koshas. I am always Sat, Chit, Anand. What is this Sat and Chit? We are going to study now. And he will come to a very great conclusion. It is not simple. He'll go through in detail the reasons. Okay? Thank you. Good night.
Hari Om.
Hari Om. Thank you.
Thank you.